Welcome to your astrological forecast for the week of Monday, May 2nd through Sunday, May 8th. This week, we're really stepping into a new phase. With all the aspects going on and some of these transits, it's really occurring to me, like I said in the last forecast, that the last several months were really part of one phase, and they were a relatively, and I say, emphasis on relatively, a relatively uneventful period. I say that knowing that we're in the middle of this long-term period of immense change. I think it's rare for us to have a dull moment. However, within this really eventful long-term period, there are, shorter periods that are relatively uneventful. So we're just stepping out of one of those more calm periods. And all that's changing now. A lot's changing. And the most notable thing that's happening now, I would say, is we're stepping into the eclipse season. We just had the first eclipse of this season. That was the new moon solar eclipse that we had on Saturday, April 30th at 10 degrees Taurus. And so now we're stepping into this lunar cycle that is completely dominated by these eclipses. So not only did we have the new moon solar eclipse on April 30th, we'll also have a full moon lunar eclipse on May 16th. And I would really encourage you to pay attention not only to these eclipses, but also the entire lunar cycle. Each phase, each aspect that the moon makes will be much more intense than normal because of that eclipse season. And I don't know about you, but I personally get really excited for eclipse seasons. Everything changes in a really dramatic and potent way. So you can really see the astrology happening before your eyes when we are in eclipse seasons. It can be scary, especially for some of us, to experience immense change. Too much change will literally kill you. But at the same time, change is also necessary to evolve and to increase our consciousness. I would advise, if you aren't sure, depending on our astrology, we might be more or less conditioned for change. But if change does make you uncomfortable, you can look to the mutable signs. Mutable signs are designed to experience change, and you might notice that they are all a little bit more passive than their cardinal or fixed counterparts. And the reason being is that they know that they kind of just have to surrender to the change. You can't really control things at all when everything's changing. It's hard to predict things. So the mutable signs are pros at this. They can kind of just surrender, just go with the flow. It doesn't mean you can't be excited for the changes or assert yourself and make the most of it. But I think there has to be some level of detachedness involved to, to adapt to the new changes. So that's just something I wanted to throw out there. But besides the eclipse season and the lunar cycle, we also have Sun crossing over Uranus this week, so that will add to the unpredictability, add a little bit of chaos and not just chaos and unpredictability, but it's also a chance to increase our consciousness, to have sudden realizations and profound awakenings or increased consciousness. So that's something that we'll have this week. And then we also have one planet changing signs. That would be Venus going into Aries. So that's a little bit of a different energy. We've had Venus exalted in Pisces for a while, so really amplifying the Venus energy. Things will change a lot. Venus going into Aries is a big change because Venus is in detriment in Aries, so it's almost debilitated there. But yeah, otherwise, again, that lunar cycle is really key here. The moon will be waxing, so it's gaining light coming off of that new moon solar eclipse that we just had before this week, and it will wax, it will gain light going from Taurus, and then it will reach Leo by the end of this week, and then we'll have a first quarter moon at 18 degrees Leo on Sunday. So that's a big deal. Again, it's not just about new moons or full moons. The quarter moons really shake things up in a in a profound way. It can be stressful, but it can also be an opportunity to make change. So that's something I would definitely look out for. Okay, so going into this week, we start out Monday, May 2nd. So we have the moon entering Gemini pretty early today, Eastern Standard Time, and as soon as the moon enters Gemini, it crosses over Mercury. Mercury has just recently entered Gemini as well. Mercury's at 2 degrees Gemini, and then moon crosses over that around noon Eastern Standard Time. So this really shows that we are curious, we're open, we're wanting to learn and to, expand our consciousness into seeing what other people feel. Gemini is all about that interchange of expression of what oneself is experiencing, but also, curious about what others are experiencing as well. So we're really wanting to trade information. Sometimes that information can be very profound and thought provoking, and sometimes it can be shallow, it can be gossip or what have you. Gemini wants to experience that full range. So that's generally where the focus is as we start the week on Monday here. We also have Venus entering Aries, looks like in the afternoon here. And again, this starts a whole period where, um, at least in terms of love and affection, desire and attraction, we may actually be a little bit less secure with Venus going into Aries. And this shakes things up as well. Aries is such an active sign. I think whatever planet is in Aries is a really tangible energy. So although this can make us uncomfortable, it can make us unsettled because Aries likes to kind of control things. It likes to be very active. And Venus doesn't typically operate that way. Venus is usually more passive. It usually attracts things to it just by being pretty, if you will, or just by being attractive itself. So it's almost kind of an alien energy for Venus going into Aries, where Aries wants to get out there and fight and control. So that can be destabilizing for relationships or resources, how we support ourselves. But it can also shake things up, and it can be an opportunity to experience something we might not usually experience or something we might not usually be open to. All detriment placements and fall placements for that matter as well uh, are better at thinking outside of the box, if you will. So, when Venus was exalted in Pisces, that was really great. We could experience, attraction and desire in a way that was very expected and very, I don't know, like standard. But as Venus goes into Aries, it's more kind of freaky, it's more different. It allows us to, I don't know, experience something more strange or outside of the box in terms of our desire and attraction. So that's kind of the silver lining to that. And we'll experience that for the next several weeks here. Going to Tuesday, May 3rd, Moon continues transiting through Gemini. I like this. Moon is just starting its whole cycle, so it's just starting to gain light. As it does gain light and it becomes a crescent moon in the sky, you'll start to experience more tangibly the themes of this entire lunar cycle. So something truly began on April 30th with that new moon, but I always say new moons are relatively quiet. Eclipses can be an exception where we might experience something more loudly or more tangibly for a new moon solar eclipse. However, it's almost impossible to truly know, especially on a physical level, what a lunar cycle is about or what a new moon is bringing about until the moon gains light. You literally don't see the moon until it gains light, basically. So just keep that in mind as the moon is starting to get a little glimmer of light, gaining light here as it goes through Gemini. Things are starting to get more eventful. So again, that's really exciting considering that we just had an eclipse. So things are very theatrical in between eclipses. It's almost like there's this big shakeup. This is especially true for Tauruses and Scorpios. Also, if you have your north or south node, well, north and south node on the Taurus Scorpio axis, your life will be changing very dramatically. But for the rest of us as well, we can all experience this. We can experience this electricity in the air. And this, I always compare it to like a cinematic experience, a dramatic experience, because there's just less dull moments. There's more coincidences happening. There's more synchronicities. And again, we're experiencing that more as the moon is starting to gain light here on Tuesday. Otherwise, on Tuesday, we do have one major aspect. That would be Jupiter sextiling Pluto. This is a big deal. This is a big deal for a few reasons. So, Pluto is kind of the star. It's getting a lot of attention lately. It just turned retrograde. It's at the very end of Capricorn. Jupiter making this aspect means that it's at the end of its sign too. Jupiter is actually about to enter Aries next week, so that's a really big deal. Jupiter changes signs about once every year. So, planets, whenever they're at the end of their signs, they become more intensified. And there's almost a kind of crisis energy to it because, in a way, it's a death. It's the end of a period, it's the end of a story, end of a phase. And when you get to the end of a phase, much like the end of a class, it's almost like you experience a test where, like, all the themes of that entire phase are kind of thrown at you and almost like a blender. It's kind of like, right before you die, a lot of people experience a flashback. They experience everything, immediately. So just think about that, like the near death experience or a test at the end of a class. These are very good metaphors for what we experience when planets are at the end of their signs. Okay, and Pluto in particular, I would pay special attention to Pluto. Pluto has been in Capricorn since 2008. It entered Capricorn right around the same time that the stock market crashed in autumn of 2008. And so ever since then, we've experienced a lot of restriction. Things have been very heavy. Things have been kind of dense. It's almost like we've experienced the first third of winter since 2008. We've entered this like global winter on an energetic and thematic level with Pluto and Capricorn. So we're almost ready to, I want to say, ditch those energies, in a way. Hopefully, we've learned a lot. Hopefully, we've learned what we were supposed to. I think this whole transit has made us a lot stronger. But what I'm getting to is like Pluto is about to enter Aquarius just next year, and this is a really big deal. We're almost ready to enter the age of Aquarius. So anyway, I don't want to go off too much into that, but as Jupiter makes this aspect to Pluto, both of them are ready to leave their respective signs. Both of them are experiencing this kind of flashback of energies that they've experienced during their respective transits. And with Pluto in Capricorn as well, I think we've all learned a lot about our authority structures. Think about 2008. A lot of us were very young back then. We were very naive in terms of how does the structure of our society work? How does our leadership work? Do our leaders represent us? Or if they do, how do they represent us? I think it's been a big wake up call for all of us, with the structure of our society, the hierarchy, and such. So we've learned a lot. It's been really hard, but we're almost ready to experience something very new. Okay. And also, I just want to mention too, as I've stated before, outer planets making aspects to one another is always a big deal just because they're much slower. So these are the aspects that correlate to, moments or movements in history. Moments in history, I guess either would work. There could be some kind of historical event centered around this, especially pertaining to spirituality and increased consciousness, represented by Jupiter and Pisces, and the structure of our society, our hierarchies, our leaders, our political figures, etc., represented by Pluto and Capricorn. Okay, so I think there's some kind of something has been triggered in terms of our collective consciousness, not only by the eclipse season, but also by the recent Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. Okay, so all these outer planets are much louder lately. They're making aspects, they're talking to one another. They are triggering us to wake up and ask for more of a realization of awareness over our circumstances. I think we have this invitation or opportunity to gain more consciousness and more responsibility and power as well. I think that's what this is about here. So anyway, that does happen on Tuesday, but these being outer planets will mostly feel this on a long-term level, on a historical level, on a worldwide level. These are big picture planets. So if these do trigger aspects in your chart, if they land, if you have a planet at the end of Capricorn or Pisces, you'll experience this personally. You may experience a profound change in your life, but for the rest of us, we'll experience this more on a holistic level, if you will. All right, going to Wednesday, May 4th. Moon enters Cancer about midday, looks like afternoon actually, Eastern Standard Time. This is pretty cool. I mean, the moon does well at this whole sector of the chart here. Moon was exalted in Taurus for the new moon solar eclipse, so I kind of raved about how great of an eclipse that was. It was a really beautiful chart. Moon does well in Gemini. I say Moon is in joy in Gemini. It's the most fun moon sign. And then now Moon is entering Cancer where it's in domicile. So Moon really likes this whole part of the chart. It's really comfortable in all these signs. Moon in domicile in Cancer means that for the next 2.5 days, we will be extra aware and confident of how we feel emotionally. So we get a boost of emotional intelligence. And with that emotional intelligence comes increased psychic awareness as well, increased intuition. And this is also really beautiful because Cancer makes a sextile to Taurus, so the moon is gaining light, and it's always a generally really positive vibe as the moon sextiles the sun, especially this waxing sextile where we are experiencing increased activity and energy, but it's in a positive way. This is a very harmonious aspect, especially in yin signs like this. Sun is pretty comfortable in Taurus; it's pretty strong there. Moon is in domicile in Cancer, so this is generally a positive day. We're experiencing a pretty harmonious day on Wednesday. There is one aspect, though, that will shake things up a little bit that may not be as harmonious. That would be Mars at 14 degrees Pisces, sextiling Uranus at 14 degrees Taurus. So these, I would say, are the two most volatile planets that we have in our solar system. Maybe Pluto is volatile, but in a much more long-term way. But Uranus and Mars, some Uranus glyphs actually kind of look like Mars, and I think that's a tribute to Uranus's unpredictability and volatility. They do share a lot of themes. This is a sextile, so that does make it a little bit harmonious or positive or easy to experience. However, this can be disruptive as well. I think it can be especially disruptive to our economy. I mean, I say that, and really, we've had a whole bunch of aspects lately that point to dramatic changes in our resources, in our economy, our stocks. What do we value? What do we not value? And I've seen that for myself as well. The supply chain is dramatically changing. The products that we have access to are dramatically changing. So that's just one sign of our products, our resources, our money, how do we support ourselves? All of that is changing with the new moon solar eclipse and among many other aspects. Sun crossing over Uranus is one of them as well that we'll experience soon here, very soon. But Mars sextiling Uranus just adds to this. And it's interesting because besides massive changes in our resources and our, how we support ourselves and our physical wealth and all of that, we're also experiencing dramatic changes in our spirituality and our consciousness right now. And these sextiles between Pisces and Taurus planets shows that there's a connection there. It's almost like they're going hand in hand. And this is really beautiful because these signs complement one another very well. So if we can experience these Taurus themes where we can be grounded and practical and pragmatic, we have our feet on the ground, but at the same time we're delving into this Piscean spirituality and consciousness, abstract themes, and a certain knowingness. So the two together are extremely powerful. With this in particular, Mars sextiling Uranus, I would really see dramatic changes in wealth, commodities, everything I just listed off here. What do we value as a society in a physical way? What commodities are valued, what commodities are not valued. There would be dramatic changes here in a very short amount of time. That's what I would expect. And Mars in Pisces shows that I think we're extra sensitive and we're experiencing extra, almost like a fight or flight response in terms of our spirituality and our relationship to our understanding of the universe, if that makes sense. I know this is kind of vague and abstract, but that's the nature of Pisces. It is vague and abstract, so it's hard to define by its very nature. But Mars and Pisces initiating this aspect shows that although we are experiencing changes on a physical level with our wealth and resources, these are coming from a spiritual place. There's some kind of change in our awareness of our universe that is actually triggering the changes in our physical lives. And the two go hand in hand. The two can build off each other. That's what we're experiencing now. Okay. So I don't think I fully explained it there, but I'm just gonna let you kind of ponder that and see that for yourself. That's kind of generally what's happening now. But Moon in Cancer is a great addition to this. At least we know what we're feeling very well. The Moon is supporting us right now. Okay, Thursday, May 5th. God, there's so much happening this week, so it's probably going to be a long forecast. But Thursday, May 5th, we do have Sun crossing over Uranus early in the day. And man, this just really, it's just one aspect that it's strengthening a lot of themes that we've already been experiencing. We've already been experiencing dramatic changes with our resources, how we support ourselves, our relationship to money and wealth. Also our relationship of, how do we understand the universe? How do we, experience reality? Taurus is like the sign for the five senses, the physical senses. So how do we experience reality? What is our relationship and how do we support ourselves emotionally, financially? All of that has been dramatically changing. Sun crossing over Uranus just adds to that. With Uranus in particular, as I kind of touched on at the beginning of this forecast, Uranus invites us to have sudden changes with our understanding of reality. And it's interesting because Uranus, it can trigger physical changes in our reality, but a lot of the time, the only thing that actually changes with Uranus aspects is our perception. So maybe nothing has actually changed for you financially on this day, Thursday. It's just your awareness of it, your perception. Okay, so it's almost kind of backward with Uranus. The change starts within you. It starts within your consciousness. You may just seemingly randomly experience I don't know, a different perspective. Like you just suddenly have more awareness over, especially your physical reality, your finances, your wealth, and what you do with that increased awareness, that increased understanding, is your responsibility. That's why Uranus transits and aspects can be difficult because with knowledge comes power and it comes responsibility. And that's typically where the change comes from. Typically to truly embrace this new understanding and this increased perception, you have to apply that information somehow. And sometimes what may have been satisfactory before, with this new realization and this new awareness, it now may not be satisfactory, and then that's where the change has to come from you. So that's a lot to ponder. On the one hand, if you're not typically super enthusiastic about change, this can be very unsettling, especially because Taurus is a fixed sign. We like our Taurus themes to be consistent. How do we support ourselves financially and emotionally? We typically like that to stay the same. Change there can be unsettling, so that can be very uncomfortable, especially if you have a lot of fixed signs in your chart. But I would encourage you to try to look at how you can capitalize off of this. How can you be an optimist about it? Because that awareness, although it can be uncomfortable, can lead to a much better situation. It just might require a little bit of work on your part, if that makes sense. Um, okay, but that's the main thing happening on Thursday. Otherwise, the moon is continuing to cruise through Cancer, and looks like it's going to make that exact sextile to the sun, the waxing sextile, very late in the day on the night of Thursday going into Friday here. So again, it's so interesting this whole period because although we have a lot of very volatile aspects, a lot of sudden change, there's a lot of harmonious energy as well. Some of these Pisces and Taurus energies, and then now with the moon in Cancer sextiling Taurus, there's a lot of harmony there as well. I don't know. So although there is immense change, if you can slow down at this time and just kind of feel the energies and allow yourself to experience these slower states of mind, there's a lot of richness there. There's a lot of opportunity for increased intuition, as I stated. So yes, it's it's very volatile, but there's harmony there as well if you seek it. Friday, May 6th, we have, oh, I missed the button. Friday, May 6th, we have Moon continuing to go through Cancer. It won't leave Cancer quite yet. It won't enter Leo. But this is good. Like I said, we're feeling how we're feeling very well. We know how we feel. I think that's the gift of Moon and Cancer. At least, like whatever your stance is, it may be difficult, but at least you know how you feel. We've got that part figured out. And we can sometimes butt heads more because of that, but with the moon making this kind of loose sextile now to the sun, things are generally harmonious. We generally have a good vibe, a good mood, collectively speaking. So there's a lot going for us here on Friday. It looks like a generally positive day, I would say. We do have one aspect that would be Mercury at 4 degrees Gemini, sextiling Venus at 4 degrees Aries, and both of which have just recently entered Yang signs. So both Mercury and Venus are supporting us being more active, more adventurous, more curious. Both Gemini and Aries are kind of like pioneer signs. They want to experience new things. They get bored easily, so they can be very restless. And with Mercury sextiling Venus here, these planets together are ideal for really pleasant conversations. Mercury wants to learn and exchange information, and Venus wants to experience pleasant things and experience beauty and aesthetics, and such. So Mercury sextiling Venus, even the sextile aspect itself is a Venusian aspect. It's one of harmony and these energies complement each other very well. So Venus sextiling, excuse me, Mercury sextiling Venus in from Gemini to Aries, this looks really, really perfect for having good conversations. So maybe doing something social on this day, you could make the most of this aspect. It looks like It looks like a good party energy, especially since it's a Friday. I guess that would work pretty well. And, we have the sun in Taurus with the moon in Cancer to kind of ground things a little bit to keep things from getting too crazy. But Mercury and Gemini sextiling Venus and Aries are adding a lot of playfulness, a lot of activity to the mix as well. We want to experience each other. We want to learn from each other or have really pleasant conversations on this day. So yeah, this is kind of the ultimate aspect for good conversation here. All right, Saturday, May 7th, Sun sextiles Mars. Um, well, I should, before I get ahead of myself here, the moon enters Leo. I think that's the most notable change. Um, Although the moon, Leo is generally such a fun energy. It likes to keep things, kind of positive and upbeat. So that is a fun energy to experience. And remember what I said about, each sign that the moon goes through during this eclipse season is going to be very potent, very tangible. So this is generally a really fun energy. However, Leo does square Taurus. So we are stepping into this first quarter square here. The moon is starting to look like a half moon. It's starting to look like the right half is lit up. So as the moon starts to look like that, as we start to step into this first quarter square aspect, things do get more tense. They get very energetic, very active. We all feel more wound up, and you can especially see this in children and pets. They go wild, and it's almost like we're all more awake later than we might otherwise would. And this is maybe exacerbated by the fact that it's a Saturday. So this is something that's very tangible. If you look for it, I guarantee you will see it. Everyone's gonna be kind of wound up here. The downside, as I always say, and this goes for any quarter moon, any first quarter moon especially, but especially since this is a lunar, since this is the middle of eclipse season, the downside is that we might be more likely to feel stressed or anxious. We might feel nervous, restless. It's like there's so much energy. It's a very frenetic, electric energy, and we might not know what to do with it at times. So that can be stressful. We could be overwhelmed by it all. But on the plus side, it's an excellent opportunity to make change. So I would really say, like, forget relaxing on this day. You have to apply this energy somehow. It's almost like trying to relax with this aspect is just going to make you more stressed. You have to find some kind of project, some kind of outlet. The first quarter moon wants us to change something. It wants, activation, initiation. It's really, although the new moon truly starts the whole lunar cycle, we really experience it in a much more visceral way on the first quarter moon. It's really what kicks everything into gear here. So I don't know, try to be more active, especially since the moon is in Leo. It's such an active physical sign. Moon in Leo squaring Sun and Taurus, both of these want us to do physical kinds of experiences. We want to engage with physical reality. We want to have like physical experiences. So I don't know, maybe do something kind of physically active on Saturday if you can. Let's see here. Yep, that's what I'd really say the most here. And then also going back to that Sun sextiling Mars, adding a little bit of Mars energy just furthers this anxiety, this tension, but also the opportunity to make change and to be active. So you utilize this energy, harness it to I don't know, make some change in your life or tweak something around, do something active. Mars in Pisces is continuing to show that there's this tension in our spirituality, as I've mentioned before. I don't know. It's like we're unsettled with our relationship to spirituality and our relationship to the cosmos or to reality itself. So maybe something needs to be changed there. Maybe we need to learn something else or change our perception. But Mars is a malefic, so it's a disruptor. It's not content with the status quo. It's a troublemaker. So it's showing that we want to change something with our spirituality at this time. So that may come into it as well. I think most of this energy with this chart is really dominated by the first quarter moon. So again, it's very physical in nature, but Mars and Pisces sextiling the sun does show that this is spiritual as well, of course. We need to change something spiritually as well. And the two go hand in hand. Like if you're doing something very physical where you can kind of lose yourself in it, like really anything, I don't know, something physically active if you're like working out or running or I don't know, doing something like competitive. if you allow yourself to lose yourself in it and like really get into it, that will, trigger something spiritually as well. It can trigger spiritual consciousness as well. So that's what I would suggest for this energy to, I don't know, if you can get lost in some kind of physical activity on Saturday here. Or if it can't be physical, then just do something active. Get out there and do something, make some kind of change here. All right, lastly, on Sunday, May 8th, we finally have this first quarter moon aspect here, the exact one. Now, like I said, we would already feel this on Saturday, but it really becomes acute and exact on Sunday. And it looks like it would happen in late afternoon here, Eastern Standard Time, to be exact. But again, this is really going to dominate the whole weekend. It'll be tangible all weekend. But the first quarter moon will occur exactly at 18 degrees Leo. And again, this is, a lot of, like, we're already experiencing this Saturday. It just becomes that much more dramatic on Sunday. It's, we have to get out there. We have to make some kind of change. We're restless. We're tense. We want to be physical. We want to be playful as well. Leo wants to have fun. It wants to have a good time. It's a kind of childlike energy. So I don't know if we can get lost in some kind of game or competition, or even if we're alone, if we can do some kind of physical activity. I think that's what's needed. If you, I already stated it, but I'll say it again. If you're trying to relax and be really calm, it's just not going to work. It's going to stress you out more on Sunday. You got to get out there, make some kind of change, even if it's just going for a walk. That's fine. Anything that allows yourself to feel in your body and to have some kind of physical experience. Sun in Taurus is a nature lover. It's encouraging us to experience the beauty of nature more, especially in mid-spring in the northern hemisphere here. So it could be something like that. That would be really great. Get out there, even if it's just sitting in nature and allowing yourself to, I don't know, try to explore that, or go on a hike or something. We have to be in our bodies at this time, I think. And again, there is a spiritual connection here. There's a lot happening on a spiritual level, but I think the two go hand in hand. If you're dissociating and you're not in your body and you're losing yourself, you're off somewhere else, you're not going to be grounded. You can't truly increase your spiritual consciousness. Eventually you'll be taken over by some kind of entity. We have to be in our bodies and experiencing nature, experiencing physical reality, if we wish to truly experience the spiritual plane. They go hand in hand. So I think that is the takeaway from this week, but especially from this weekend and from Sunday in particular. So that's what I have for you this week. I really hope everybody's okay. I know there's a lot of changes happening right now. It's very intense. It's harder for some of us than others. My heart honestly goes out to you. I just hope you're doing well. This week is not the end of the changes at all. Next week we have Jupiter moving into Aries, so this is a big deal. Jupiter's kind of flying. We only had Jupiter in Pisces for, it wasn't even a full year. And Jupiter going into Aries is a much more active energy. So this next year or so will be very active. Jupiter will retrograde back into Pisces for some time, but Jupiter going into Aries, to me, looking at the aspects for the late 2020s, this is part of the movement of going into the age of Aquarius. We're going to experience a lot more yang energies, so that would be air and fire signs in the latter half of the decade. So Jupiter going into Aries gives us a little taste of this, of the immense changes and transformation that is yet to come in the latter half of this decade. So that's very exciting, definitely something to look out for. As if that weren't enough, we also have Mercury turning retrograde next week, and we have the Sun crossing over the North Node. Sun crossing over the node shows us that we're about halfway, or well, exactly halfway through the eclipse season. And then Mercury turning retrograde at 4 degrees is going to really shake things up as well and change a lot of things. We've already had Mercury pretty much stationary at 4 degrees, so it shows that for this entire week that we just experienced, we're almost at this turning point. And next week we will really complete that turning point and start to go backward, start to go within as we enter Mercury retrograde in the first 3 degrees of Gemini, and it will actually enter Taurus again. So, okay, so that's what I have for you this week. Stay tuned next week. And if you want to reach out for me, I do personal readings, and you can also let me know if you have any suggestions for content and such. But you can reach me at manic.mercurian@gmail.com. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.